Excuse me. Can I help you?
I'm here to see Santa.
We're in the middle of an appointment. You'll need to come back later.
I'm sorry. You must be Ashley Douglas. I've heard a lot about you, and I gotta say,
No, I'm not.
That's right, you ain't. I am.
When did your corn dog get back?
It's been a bit.
Who's that skinny dude?
Hi, Miss Douglas. I'm Jeremy.
Where you get your money from?
I do work for a medical science company. Right now, I'm testing out these new patches. One time, they cut off my pinky toe and reattached it with a laser.
What are you doing with all of these?
Making my money. You know the county charges $100 to throw away a fridge? Well, I got a business where I only charge $75 per fridge, and we dispose of them for you.
You want to come and lay on top of me for a minute?
Just lay on top of you?
Yeah, I'm like a human waterbed. Greg, go ahead and get that turkey dinner, $150.
Ashley's back, baby. Yo, who's that? See a butt from here.
Man, that's my aunt.
You're looking good to me.
And where did your voyage take you to today, my lord?
I got something I gotta tell you about. I'm in love with somebody else.
She your girlfriend or something?
No. What, you think you can come back here and have me again?
I was just hoping you'd be happy to see me is all.
I've moved on. I've got a man.
Dumb Chuck Dwayne, the garbage man. You know Linda's my girl, don't you?
Ashley, we getting married.
No, you are not!
They keep giving me patches.
Why?
I don't know. They keep asking me questions about how I feel.
All I do is try to get her to fall in love with me again.
Did she love you before?
Yeah, she did.
And then she'll love you again.
You and me have something real. Don't you see that? Sometimes when you can't get the person that you really want to be with, you gotta settle for somebody you actually can get.
I'm not settling for nobody. It's Linda or it's nothing.
What if she doesn't ever love you again?
Bye.
Guys, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Congratulations on the film. I love it. I love it so much. I love that the tone that you craft with this story. It's so subtle and funny, and you're not shooting for the biggest laughs possible or the saddest moments.
What does that mean?
I thought it made me smile. Josh, talk about crafting a story like this, because it's difficult to get a movie like this made in this environment. People want the biggest moment possible all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I have a trust in the audience that they can follow a setup for a joke for a longer time than most people do, and so it's about trusting your audience and hoping the best for them, and creating an environment where they can invest themselves mentally in what's going on, and they can actually come to conclusions on themselves instead of doing a close-up of the fall. It's no, this is a wide shot. We're not telling you exactly what to look at. So it's a little bit in the technical, it's a little bit in the writing, but it's what it comes from is a place of trust to the audience.
How did you come to cast Andre Royo, the great Andre?
He's amazing. Andre's amazing.
You're iconic. You know that because of Bubbles, man. Bubbles is one of the most iconic characters that we've ever had.
Yes.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because I had this thing written before I'd seen The Wire. And when I finally sat down and watched it, I had to change the character a lot to be not Bubbles. And actually avoided...
You had written something that was very similar to...
I had written something very similar to what Bubbles was. And for that reason, I avoided Andre Royo for a long time for the part until my friend Julia Kim, who was helping us out with casting in the early stages, said, let me send it to him. I think he's on board. He would be on board to not be Bubbles. So he got it and sent me the kindest email I'd gotten to date. And he was the first person who got the script on a deep level. He understood it. He understood the tone of it. He understood the emotions of it. And he was on board. And we sat down and talked, and he can kind of fill in those blanks.
Talk about that deep level that you got it on. What was it about it that immediately hit you?
Well, when you get a script, you kind of get a sense that you know what it's about in the first 10 pages. And the idea of this guy coming out of jail and trying to find himself or trying to rebuild his life with his friends and his family and so on and so forth, I assumed where the script was going, and then it didn't go that way. And there were certain elements of the tone that I hadn't seen in scripts that I was getting at that time.
You getting a lot of bubble scripts?
I was just getting a lot of general scripts. I think that there came a time where being black and on screen, you were dictated on how we were perceived and how we were supposed to live, how we were supposed to talk, so that people can get it or get us. And this script didn't do any of it. There wasn't, anything to deal with drugs or cursing or, violence. It was just like just an honest, simple story that I found poetic in its simplicity. And, something about it grabbed me where I didn't know what was happening or where the story was going to end up. I just enjoyed the journey. And, when you have that happen in this craft, in this business, it at least had me wanting to meet him and talk about, the story and to see if, we can go on this journey together and, create something instead of regurgitate and do something that we've seen 100 times.
What are you looking for because a lot of people say, I read the script and then we sat down and met with each other and talked. So what are you looking for in that meeting?
Me, I'm looking to see if I'm sitting in front of an artist or a business person. I'd like to find out, not that one is bad, worse than the other, but I just want to find out who I'm dealing with and, get a sense of, can he tell a story? I mean, at the same way he's, was avoiding me or auditioning me and just getting a feel for who I am and do I get his story, I got to understand that independent film is hard. You're doing 18 days. You're not gonna like each other at certain points, and you gotta see if you two guys can or you two people can work together. And is it gonna be a dictatorship or is it gonna be something where we both bring something to the table? And I want to know all of that before I sign on and say, okay, I give you not just 18 days, but me and my research and getting into the character. Can we do this together?
It's so funny because that's sort of all about what's going to be unsaid, because no one's going to sit down at the table and say, I'm going to be a dictator when it comes to making this film. So you're really it's about gauging someone's personality. Does the same go for you, or is it about convincing for you?
No, well, yeah, I mean, there's a certain amount of, I feel ownership over the material at that point a lot more, and you're scared, at each point you're giving away a little bit of it. So I'm sitting in my room on my computer, and I'm writing, I have 100% ownership of it, and as soon as I get a producer attached, you're giving away a slice of that, so you got to make sure you have the right producers on. Then once you start casting, you're away bigger chunks of that to an actual person, and your abstract thoughts about this world and what the person sounds like and what they look like, they become concrete. And you have to trust in the material, and you have to trust in your collaborators that they are going to make it bigger than make it more than if you had just done everything yourself. And that's what Andre did, and that's what the producers did, and all the actors did. It's like, and everybody did, honestly. It's if I had done every position on the movie, it would be tiny. And I think that now it just feels full, and it feels developed, and it feels like a whole piece because of the work of Andre, and even things that I didn't like or things that I rejected at the beginning on set are in the cut. So
what brought you to this story?
I had met this guy named Eddie, who was a good friend of mine. I became good friends with him, and he's good friends with a couple people I know too. And we sat down to try to make a movie about his life. And he had been an heroin addicted pimp in the 80s, and I was like really drawn to this world that he described. And as I got into it, and as I started developing that idea, and as I started trying to find myself in that, I didn't find it in the stuff you would normally find in that story. I didn't find it in the drug dealing and the pimp and hoes and all that. I didn't find me there. Where I found it was in the characters who we talked about and the situations we talked about. And so I guess it was just a curiosity that drew me to it. And it's become something totally different than his story in every way. But that was the kind of seedling for it.
Now, the film is primarily, if I think, only black cast, right? And
there are two Caucasian people
right.
in the movie, and there's a Hispanic person in the movie. Yeah. But yeah, it's primarily black.
But what did you
cast.
think when you met with this 6'4" white guy who wanted to sort of tell this story?
Again, I think the one word that really came up in our conversation over and over again was trust. And I once I saw him walking and coming and sat down, I just started laughing because I knew that in no other situation in my life would we ever hang out or meet whatsoever. But
That's not
in
cool.
art, well, it's true. It is very true. You know,
You guys don't hang out after?
we don't hang out. We do now, but at first, you know, like you said, a 6 foot, you know, tall white boy. I was not hanging out
Did I
with.
undersell or oversell? 6'4", 6'5"?
6'6".
6'6". You know, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. But anyway.
What's as tall as James Comey? So.
Yeah. So I think I was happy that, you know, I'm always excited when art and what I'm into with the acting and art form brought somebody like us together. It brought us together to at least have a conversation. And that's what I love about, you know, the craft, is that it brings people together. Any art form brings people together to see if you can, you know, create together.
And that happens in the story, too. There's a synthesis of personalities on set, and there's a synthesis of creating this world, but it's also a synthesis of the world of the film. And it's not just a black world, it's not just my world, it's a synthesis. And the hope is that I can bring my experiences to something that I imagine, and that Andre can bring his experiences to something that I've imagined, and then we can create something new that you haven't seen before, and that's fresh.
So much is being made this year about the movie Moonlight, and one of the things that I personally loved about Moonlight so much was that it was a story about love and relationships that was sort of within the black community without necessarily, but everything that we normally talk about and politicize is kind of in the background. So we can watch the emotional journeys of these characters unfold. And that felt very similar to me in this film as well. He's just out of prison. The sort of economic situation of everybody is sort of there, but the story is about a man trying to recreate his life in the image of what he thinks it should be.
Yeah, all that stuff in our movie. I mean, Moonlight is a masterpiece. It's the best movie of the year. It's amazing. But you know what our movie is. Wait, what was I gonna say? I forgot what I was gonna say. No. The hope is you take this setup, you take this world, and the hope is that you have all the pieces there that people think they're gonna get one thing, and then you imbue it with the humor and pathos, and the characters come to life, and you empathize with the characters and their humanity, and there's nothing more political than that, I think.
Yeah. Where did you come up with the idea for his character selling or sort of picking up refrigerators and dumping them?
That's a real thing I heard about. This guy was doing it, and he ran out of room for them, so he started using them as shipping crates. So there's like, in some third world country somewhere, there's just a bunch of old refrigerators sitting there spewing toxins into the atmosphere.
Do you relate at all to Ashley, to your character?
Yeah, I relate to the drive and the need to connect with other people, to have a friend, to be liked. You know, I think when anybody that you know gets up and goes about their day, you know, they want to have at least something to share with someone else. And I think, you know, for me as an artist and as a person, you know, I love the idea that, you know, whatever I do, somebody comes up to me and says, either I love or hate your work, but we have a conversation.
Who the hell goes up to you and says, I don't like your work?
I mean, you know, it happens. I won't, you know. I mean,
I plant
that's the
people
challenge.
to keep him,
Keep him
humble.
You know, and I think that's another way to be, you know, to feed your drive. If somebody says, you know, they don't like your work, then you just want to get better at it. You know, there's always this is the type of thing where there's never an end. You're constantly learning how to improve, how to find, how to, you know, bring in the world that you live with into your art form. So, you know, I feel like Ashley and me, we do have that desire to, you know, share my moments with somebody else.
I feel like great actors have a certain set of skills, not like Liam Neeson, but have a set of skills that are almost like innate sometimes. Like they have their skills that they learn as an actor and things that they can do, but then there's something about them and their charisma that's almost just that they were born with. And one of the things that I feel like you have, and I don't know how aware of it you are or not when you're performing, is just sort of this innate sensitivity that comes off. Like you sort of exude humanity and sympathy. And do you know that you kind of have that? I mean, it's a weird thing to ask, but like Bubbles has that.
I would
this
say
character has that.
I would say when I first started acting in New York and I was doing a lot of theater, I felt like I had a certain presence that was big, and my energy was like kind of sporadic and crazy, but it drew people to want to watch me. But I will say that I learned a lot more and became a better artist after doing Bubbles. I mean, just in the research alone, when I went to Baltimore and sat and talked and immersed myself into trying to find out who Reginald Cousins was and how did he get there, it made me, you know, understand how much, you know, how. I mean, it gets a little chilly. I mean, I tear up a little bit because I care about the humanity is such, an important thing to grasp hold of, and I wouldn't have, I guess I wouldn't have tapped in as strongly as I should have, being a person. But Bubbles and that work and that character and that show, I think made all of us better artists and better human beings for being a part of it.
What was it like for you on that show to go from the arc that you had in the first season to the second, the third, and the fourth season? Because, I mean, the writers and the creator of that show so clearly loved you and your character that you could see every season they were like, let's give him more, let's make him more full, let's give him more challenges, let's do more with this character.
Yeah, I mean, my character, at first when I met David Simon and Burns, they told me it was, me and the Omar character, Michael K. Williams, that we would do 7 episodes. That's it, because they were afraid that we would become caricatures. And they were nervous that they didn't want us to just be these, haphazard characters that take away from the story. And, I would say by the grace of, the work and the craft and the trust that I had that I was doing this character right, it became more than that, and they believed that, I was telling the story or bringing Bubbles to life in a just way with the humanity, that it helped them say, you know what, we want more, we want to write more, and it was hard. It was hard. It was a little bit of a little depressing being in that world, because once again, being in Baltimore, I just saw a lot of Bubbles, a lot of Reginald Cousins everywhere, and it became like a very responsibility to tell the story right. To these people would come up to me and talk to me, and they would really like get emotional, like, please tell the story or tell my story in the right way. Don't make fun of us. And so I wore that. I wore that with a heavy heart and with honor to do it right. And it was a hard arc for 5 years.
Did you feel a responsibility like that with this story as well, or did you feel that the sort of the humor and the specifics of Ashley's story sort of lended itself to be, you didn't feel as responsible to a community like he did to Baltimore?
That's an interesting question. I felt a responsibility to the humanity of the characters and to the reality of the emotional situations that they were in. I always knew that there was going to be a bit of a fantastic element to the surroundings and the setting, and that they were going to be a little surreal. So there was a balance there, for sure. But my devotion was to the humanity of the characters and to their emotional states.
Can you talk about casting George Sample III?
Oh, yeah.
He's amazing.
Yeah, he's great.
You're great, too. He's amazing.
I did want to say about Andre is that the character, Ashley Douglas says some atrocious things in this movie to people, and he's very flippant with other people's emotions and other people's allegiances, and it's tough to have a finished product that makes that character lovable, and you empathize with him, and the reason that happens is because Andre is so lovable, and when you look at his face, you just want him to succeed, and you root for him. And
I think that's a better way of phrasing what I was saying about him.
I don't think I knew that maybe before we were making it. Like, you don't really realize that till you're editing, and you're like, oh, this is why this works. Oh, great.
Like, it's hard to make this character a monster, this character look bad. Like, I think if you played a serial killer, Andre would be like, hey, it's all right.
We said that. We said that when we were talking about the character in the movie. We were like, you can't, if you hate him, then the movie doesn't work. Right. There's something about him and his struggle that you go, I mean, he can be a bit of a, an asshole, but I get it. I understand why. Yeah. There's something about how he lived or how he grew up that you kind of get. There's a little asshole tendencies to him, but you still want him to win. You still want him to survive. And I was reading a book that was, at that time, really helped me out in developing the character, Confederacy of Dunces, where I just fell in love with the character. And he was crazy. Yeah. He was crazy, and he would talk out the side of his mouth, but there was something about him that it came from a good place. It came from him just wanting to be liked. Yeah. And I think, me and Josh really worked in the parameters of that while we were filming, and we kind of made sure he, for a first-time director, he got it, and he knew how to, address me if I went too far. I think it was just a really good combination of us trying to, knowing what we wanted the story, how we wanted the story to feel, and I think that it worked.
Yeah, and I think George. You asked about George. He is.
We can talk about me all day, but yes, George.
He is a St. Louis-based actor. He's super talented. I saw him in a film called Cronies that was at Sundance in 2015, and I was blown away with his performance in that movie. And I just wanted to know, we had written the part for someone much younger, and when we met him, we were a little bit like, oh, maybe he's too old, and we just, he just had the humanity and the connection to the earth that that some of the other actors maybe didn't have, or they had a little bit too much this or a little bit too much that, and he had what we needed. He had that special little thing that we needed, and he was committed to the project 100%, and I couldn't have asked for a better cast. He was amazing.
How old is he, if you don't mind me asking?
George I think he just turned 38, 39. Yeah.
He looks much younger. On screen, he looks much younger.
We did some stuff with his clothes, but he's a young-looking guy. I mean, he's taking care of himself.
Now, I'm just curious, as a reference point, we saw this woman in the trailer, and her name's Santa in the film?
Yes.
So that woman,
Bonfeld,
that scene, was that in any way inspired by John Waters and his I don't think her name is Babs, but the woman that sits in the crib in Pink Flamingos? And
No,
likes
it's
eggs?
not. I don't know that. I don't know John Waters worked that well. No.
Her personality and everything, and a lot of what she's doing feels very
similar.
Yeah,
That's
it's
great.
very similar.
Yeah, I mean, what I've seen of John Waters, I love Serial Mom, but I'm not as familiar with his work as maybe some other people.
Let's open up to the audience for questions. Who has questions out there?
Hello.
Hello.
I'm just really curious, as someone who wants to be a storyteller and performer, for you as a storyteller, what is the most challenging part about it and what is the most rewarding? And for you as a performer, what is the most challenging and rewarding?
For me in this project is to keep your finger and your mind honed in on what that original nugget that inspired the film, what inspired the story, and keeping that in your head at all times, so that any performance or any art direction or any cinematography that you come through, you have to put it through the filter of what was it that attracted me to this story, and what is it in me that is attracted to this nugget. All that connection, you have to keep your thumb on that the entire process. And then the most rewarding part is at as it's coming together and you see some of those things start working. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable to see something that was in your head make you feel something, and let alone make someone else feel something.
For me, as far as performing, I guess the hardest and most rewarding at the same time is just trust. You really have to trust in preparation. I mean, you do your preparation and trust that it's going to be there for you and it's going to serve you in your scenes and in your ability to take direction, or trust your fellow, your co-star that, you don't have all the answers. You don't have it all mapped out. You just know what you built and what you prepared for your character. And then when you get out there on the scene or on the day, you trust that everybody's on the same page and wanting to tell a good story. And it can become difficult, and we have an ego, of course, and we feel like we know the right way to do a certain scene, but you don't, because the scene is not just about you, it's about the story. And if you don't trust the story, it becomes a shallow performance. But if you trust the story, if I trust that this person on the other side of the camera is going to allow me to bring something to the table, but also correct me if I go if I do something that's not right for what he wanted or what he saw the specific scene to be, I gotta trust and believe that he knows what the hell he's talking about. You know what I mean? And it's just that's always the hardest part for me, walking on stage or on screen with anybody in any job that I do, is to trust that everybody is there for the big picture, not the individual picture.
Well, that's the only way that you can let go enough to put in a good performance.
For me, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any way that you can articulate what that nugget was for this story that you would use as a filter, or was it something that you just sort of felt?
I think for me, it actually developed over time, but I retained a commitment to it. And for me, it was the tone. It's the lightness and the comedy and the naivete of the tone and the kind of innocence of the world. And then to take that and have a shift into the darker stuff that we go through, it was that. So it was that tone that I don't know if we've seen that often in films, and then trying to tweak it a little bit and start here and get maybe there.
Next question.
Hey guys, thank you for being here.
What's up?
Good. How was it getting to premiere at South by Southwest?
How did we get to premiere? How did we like it? Oh, it was amazing. I mean, that festival is great. They, I mean, we had a great. I mean, I don't know. It was great.
Good barbecue.
Good barbecue.
Good barbecue.
Good parties.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a blast. There's smart people there, and it was very nerve-wracking the first time you're having a crowd of people watch your movie who you don't know, and it could go any way you want it. Any way they want it to go. And I had the privilege of sitting next to a woman who was very vocal in her enthusiasm for the film and connection to even when it got dark. And she's, to me, has made it all worthwhile. And then the Q&A after the first screening was amazing because all of the things I was worried about were kind of validated, you know?
And it feels good to be in that sort of bubble where everybody is there to appreciate art, you know, and from the music, the technical, I think the technical part of South by Southwest is going on at the same time.
Yeah.
And, you know, and everybody that you're talking to is either going to a movie or going to a show or going to have a drink and talk about what they saw. And it's like, you know, it's like for an actor or a creative person in this business, it's the Disney world where you just eat, drink, and talk movies and music.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Having an audience that's like already open to the movie before it even starts, they want it to begin, that's amazing.
That's the major difference, I think, between South by and Sundance sometimes, too, is that the South by audiences really want every movie that they're watching to be fun and good. Sundance, it's a bit more critical, and there's a lot more sort of like distributors there. Yeah. Next question.
Hey, guys.
What's up?
So basically, for Andre, what was your favorite part to film? And for Josh, is there anything you kind of wanted to put in the movie, but you left out, and you kind of regret it, maybe?
Well, my favorite part of the movie, the film, Josh had this idea of me and Calais, the female, Natalie. We had this scene where we were saying goodbye to each other, and you know, normally, you know, it took me back to, you know, back in high school, your first love, where you said goodbye, but you kept looking at each other, walking away, seeing if the person's going to check back, and we did it for this long take. I mean, it was like a wide shot of us doing it and finding different ways to turn around and, you know, kind of say I love you or I'll see you later on, and it just took me back to high school, and so that was a lot of fun for me to shoot.
For me, you know, there's stuff that we cut out. I mean, there's a couple scenes that are cut out. I think the stuff that if I had to, if I had to say the stuff I missed, maybe there's a couple jokes that we took out that didn't connect necessarily with my friends. When I showed it to you know, you get a cut. It's a little rough, it's a little fat, there's extra scenes, and you show it to your friends, and they're like, yo, that joke's not funny. You know, and it's like, okay, all right, I don't, you know, if you're not liking it, then why would I keep it in? So there's some of those in there that I kept, because I was like, you don't know what you're talking about, but maybe they did. And then there's some that I took out that, you know, sometimes I'm like, oh, what if that's in there? But I think it's all, you know, it's all out of service to the story and a service to the characters in the film, so I think it all is retained. Everything that I was intending is retained.
Andre, what's the difference for you between acting in something like this and acting in Empire, which is so much more heightened dramatically?
The paycheck.
You can't mention
for me, there is no difference in the acting. I mean, for me, I do the same preparation. I do the same research or work, depending on what the kind of character I'm playing. And then when you walk in, you kind of, you know, if you're able to, you kind of feel the tone that the show or the movie is about. And it kind of falls in place, for me at least. So I don't do anything different. It's just, you know, has a different, you know, feel or different, you know, tone or execution. It's a lot faster than TV. You know, I long for more, you know, rehearsals and certain takes that it wasn't about the close up or, you know, the quick cuts. But that's you know, beyond my, that's above my head with all the editing and stuff. But the acting wise, I just do everything the same because, you know, so far it's working for me.
Josh, when can people see the film?
It'll be in New York.
You have DVDs underneath your chairs right now. No.
That's not true.
You get a DVD.
We are in New York and LA November 16th for a week, and then we're in a couple other cities between then and now. But if you follow us on Facebook, we can. Am I allowed to say that?
What?
Am I allowed to say Facebook?
Yeah, you can say Facebook.
Okay. If you follow us on Facebook, you can keep up with what cities we're in. But then we're on all the digital, or we're available digitally on February 7th.
Awesome. The movie's so awesome. Hunter Gatherer, guys, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.